Irreplaceable Casemiro. That is what we are here to talk about today, people. On the back of what has been a very few good weeks for Casemiro, on the back of him announcing that he'll be leaving Manchester United in the summer, I'm here to give you a little bit of a reality check, because I think the replacement for Casemiro is going to be very, very difficult. There has felt like for the last 6, 7, 8, 9 years at Manchester United, there's been this clamour to sign a midfielder. Even when we've spent £40 million on a midfielder, even when we've spent £50 million on a midfielder, there's always been this desire to go out and sign the next one. And I understand that. From a fan perspective, that feels like the big area currently that Manchester United need to go and address. And it's also felt like that for a number of years, where we haven't gone and got someone, you know, like a Declan Rice, like a Casemiro, someone who guarantees a certain level of performance from midfield. Now, Manchester United have been linked with a number of new players this summer to come into the midfield. 3 of them players in specific I'm going to talk about in this video, and they've also been linked with various other names across Europe. You think of Steeler, Chouameni, I've seen Camavinga, all of these names. But I want to talk specifically about the ones from the Premier League, the players we've been linked with, and why they're not a guarantee compared to Casemiro. They aren't this level above, and they aren't just going to come in and revolutionise this Manchester United team. Now, the 3 names in question are obviously Anderson, Carlos Baleba and Adam Wharton from Crystal Palace. Now, all of these are slightly different stylistically. I think Baleba's the runner, he's the ground coverer, he's the dual engager. Wharton is a progressive passer, he's the deep lying playmaker. And Anderson's a little bit of a hybrid between them both, in terms of he's got a little bit more ground coverage than someone like a Wharton, but he's also got a bit more in terms of his progression than maybe a Baleba. Now, I'm going to put a statistic or a data graph on the screen now, comparing Casemiro, Anderson, Baleba and Wharton this season, right? This is a coloured graph, so you can see Casemiro is the one in the blue. What stands out to you on there? The key thing for me is Casemiro isn't a million miles away from all of these players in some of the key metrics that you want. Yes, some of the players are better in certain elements. Yes, some of the players are worse than the other players on the list in some of them elements. But Casemiro isn't a slouch. You look at that possession 1 stat, right? Casemiro's higher than anyone in this statistic, right? One of the big things we've been saying about Casemiro is he can't cover ground, he can't do this, this and this. He's won more possession than all of them players. Yes, that might not be running 40 metres, covering ground in front of your defence and winning the ball, but when he's in position, he's actually better than all of these players at winning possession back. Now, forward passes is higher than Adam Wharton, is higher than Carlos Baleba. Adam Wharton, Casemiro is higher than him in terms of forward passes. Now, forward pass percentage, Elliot Anderson obviously outstrips in there, but again, Casemiro's no slouch. He's basically on a par with Adam Wharton in that. Key passes, Adam Wharton is far and away, and that's what you expect. Like I said before, Wharton is that deep line playmaker. Casemiro's not necessarily tasked with that. He's now playing alongside Menu. He's got Bruno Fernandes alongside him for the majority of the season that can do that progression, that key pass. But again, progressive passes is right up there in terms of metrics with these players. Duels is right in amongst it with these players. That just highlights to me, if you're expecting these players to come in and level up this team and just be dramatically better than what Casemiro has offered, I think you're wrong. I think you're naive to think that's going to be the case. And there's also the intangible of Casemiro scored more goals than all them players this season because he's an aerial threat. He gets in there and he's good at that. That's an intangible. Well, it's a tangible that you can compare against them players. Yes, it's not the job of a midfielder in this Manchester United team to be scoring 10 goals a season to win us trophies. That's not what we're asking for from these midfielders. But Casemiro chips in. Some of these players do not chip in with goals. And then the intangibles that I speak about, and that's leadership, that's experience, that's putting people in the right positions. There's so many times in the game, if you specifically watch Casemiro, he'll be stood there, he'll be pulling Manu in, or he'll be telling Maguire, get up a little bit behind me, or drop back, or he'll go out wide and he'll say to Shaw or Delors, like, tuck in. And I can't sit here and say that all of these players on this list are going to be coming into Manchester United and doing that type of stuff. And that is a fundamental to the team. There's a reason why Carrick, why Amarin have all chosen Casemiro just plays in this team because he brings a level of leadership, a level of control that you can't just get. You can't just get that after 1 or 2 seasons in the Premier League. Casemiro is an ultimate elite veteran. He has played in any situation. He's played in any team you want to play in. He's played at the highest of highest levels. Arguably one of the best midfields we've ever seen in that Real Madrid team. And that comes with a certain level of, or whatever you want to call it, a certain level of demeanour in this team where when Casemiro talks, the rest of the team listen. And I've spoken about this with Lisandro Martinez, where he makes other players around him better. He makes other players up their levels. And I feel like Casemiro is genuinely that. When you see Casemiro leave the field, Agate comes on. Not necessarily a slouch Agate in terms of recoveries. I think he actually did that quite well against Fulham. But it's just them little intangible metrics that you can't pick up. You can't scout that. You can't go out and say, right, he's definitely going to come in and do that. Look, Baliba, Wharton, Anderson, I want Manchester United to go out and sign one of them players. But I think it's also important to reflect and say, these aren't going to come in and instantly level up Manchester United. These aren't going to come in and we're suddenly title contenders. We're suddenly Champions League contenders. I don't think that's the case. We are losing a lot of experience with Casemiro. And I think that has to be justified. And it also has to be quantified going into next season. We need to be ready for potentially a drop-off in midfield and be understanding of that. Because when you look at the metrics, he's not a million miles away. Yes, there's going to be certain elements of the game which I think improve. That ability to recover from transitions is something Manchester United have struggled with because Casemiro can't do that 30-40 metre sprint that maybe a Baliba can do or maybe an Anderson can do. That is a non-negotiable of being a Manchester United player. That's why Casemiro has been moved on. But the other side of the game is also vitally important. And I think we're going to get a little bit of a reality check. I hope we don't. I hope them players come in and are brilliant. But I also do worry about this going into next season. Now, get down in the comments, let me know what you think. And also out of them 3 players, let me know which ones you think we should sign, which ones you prefer stylistically, mentality-wise, whatever it might be. Let me know. And also subscribe and like. Follow the channel. Whatever the button is, press it and get involved in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.